I don't believe it.
You must listen to me now. It is truly you.
The room went silent the moment the old man stood up. 200 guests, crystal glasses catching the chandelier light, and in the back corner, half hidden behind a pillar, a woman in a plain blue dress sat with her hands folded so tight her knuckles had gone white. She wasn't crying. Not yet. She was just staring at the empty chair beside her, the one that should have had a name card on it but didn't. Her daughter's wedding. Her only daughter. And she'd been seated behind the caterer's station. The groom's grandfather, a quiet man nobody had paid much attention to all evening, set down his napkin. He walked past the head table, past his own grandson, past the groom's mother in her diamond necklace. And he didn't stop until he reached the back corner. He held out his hand to the bride's mother. "Come with me," he said. "You're sitting where you belong." Nobody in that room knew what he was about to do next. Or that by the end of the night, he'd hand her something far bigger than a seat. If you believe every mother deserves a seat at her child's table, literally and in life, hit that like button right now, before we go any further. It costs nothing, and it tells me you're the kind of person who still believes decency matters. Now let's go back to where this really started. Her name was Margaret. She'd raised her daughter Claire alone since Claire was 6 years old, in a 2-bedroom rental above a laundromat. No child support. No help. Just double shifts at a diner and a sewing machine she used at midnight to fix other people's clothes for extra cash. She never told Claire how close they came to losing that apartment. Twice. She sold her mother's wedding ring when Claire was 12, to pay for a school trip Claire desperately wanted to go on. She told Claire she'd just never liked that ring anyway. Claire believed her for years. When Claire got into college, Margaret worked a second job cleaning offices at 5 a.m., before her diner shift even started. She never once let Claire see her tired. So when Claire fell in love with Daniel, sharp suit, old money, a mother named Vivian who wore her wealth like armor, Margaret was happy. Genuinely happy. She didn't care about the money. She just wanted her daughter loved. But Vivian cared about appearances. From the very first dinner, she asked Margaret pointed questions about her line of work, her background, her connections. Margaret answered honestly every time. Vivian's smile got thinner with every answer. 3 days before the wedding, the seating chart was finalized, without Margaret's input. She wasn't told until she arrived. The wedding planner, avoiding eye contact, walked her past the head table, past the family section, all the way to a small round table near the kitchen doors, wedged behind a support pillar. "Seating changes," the planner mumbled. "Last-minute request from the groom's mother." Margaret didn't argue. She never argued. She smoothed her dress, thanked the planner, and sat down. She told herself it didn't matter. Today wasn't about her. It was about Claire. But it stung more than she expected, watching Vivian sail past in her designer gown, watching Daniel's relatives fill the head table one by one, and realizing there was no seat, no name card, nowhere for the mother of the bride at all. She hadn't noticed the old man watching her from across the room the entire time. Everyone called him Grandpa Whitfield. He was Daniel's grandfather, Vivian's father-in-law, a soft-spoken man in his 80s, who mostly kept to himself at family events. People assumed he was just old money, quietly retired, harmless. They had no idea he still owned every brick of the building they were standing in. Vivian certainly never mentioned it. She liked people believing the money was hers. Grandpa Whitfield had watched Margaret arrive, watched her being walked to the back, watched her sit down without complaint, without a scene, without a single word of protest. And something in his chest went cold. He remembered a woman just like her decades ago, his own mother, also underestimated. Also seated in the back once, at a wedding much like this one. He didn't say anything through the ceremony. He didn't say anything through the toasts. He just watched. And waited. She didn't know it yet, but the quietest man in the room was about to become the loudest voice at that wedding. The best man's speech ended. The band started tuning for the first dance. And that's when Grandpa Whitfield stood up. Slow, deliberate, the way a man moves when he's been patient his whole life and has finally decided patience is done. He walked the length of the room. Every step landed in silence, because somehow, without anyone saying the word, the whole room had started watching him instead of the dance floor. He reached Margaret's table. He held out his hand. "Come with me," he said. "You're sitting where you belong." Margaret froze. "Oh, I'm fine here, really." "You are the mother of the bride," he said, gently but firmly. "There is no version of tonight where you sit behind a pillar." She took his hand. He walked her, slowly, past every table, past Vivian's stunned face, past Daniel who had gone pale, all the way to the head table, and pulled out his own chair. The chair at the center. His chair. "Sit," he said. "This one's yours now." Vivian stood up so fast, her champagne glass tipped over. "Dad, this is inappropriate. She doesn't belong at the back," Grandpa Whitfield said, cutting her off without raising his voice. "That was your decision, not mine, and not one I'm willing to let stand." He turned to Daniel, who looked like he wanted the floor to open beneath him. "You let this happen," the old man said quietly, "on your wedding day. To the woman who raised your wife alone, with nothing, and asked for nothing in return." Daniel opened his mouth. Nothing came out. "Do you know who owns this venue?" Grandpa Whitfield asked the room, though he was still looking at his grandson. "I do. Every wall, every chandelier, every chair in this room belongs to me. I bought it 40 years ago, back when nobody in this family had a cent to their name. I built what you're all standing in tonight." Vivian's face had gone white. "I have spent years watching this family confuse money for worth," he continued. "Tonight I watched a woman sit in a corner without complaint, without bitterness, without demanding a single thing. Because that's who she is. That tells me more about her character than any bank statement ever could." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded envelope, the kind lawyers use. He set it on the table in front of Daniel. "I called my attorney this morning," he said. "I've restructured the family trust. Effective today, decisions about this family's estate go through Margaret first. Not because she asked, because she's the only person in this room tonight who's shown she deserves that trust." The room was dead silent except for Vivian's sharp inhale. "Get up," he said to his grandson. "Apologize to your wife's mother. Properly. Not because I'm telling you to, because it's the decent thing to do." Daniel walked over, visibly shaking, and knelt slightly beside Margaret's chair. "I'm sorry," he said, and for the first time all night, he actually meant it. "I should have said something. I should have stopped this before it started." Margaret, tears finally falling, reached out and touched his hand. "You're just starting your marriage," she said softly. "Start it by being someone your wife can be proud of. That's all I want." Vivian didn't apologize that night. But 3 weeks later, a handwritten letter arrived at Margaret's apartment above the laundromat. Awkward. Stiff. Clearly the first apology Vivian had ever written in her life. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Claire never forgot that night either. Years later, she'd tell people the moment she was proudest of wasn't her wedding dress or her vows. It was watching her mother, who had given up everything and asked for nothing, finally get shown what she was worth. Margaret didn't want the money. She quietly redirected most of her new trust authority into a scholarship fund for single mothers going back to school. She kept working at the diner 2 more years, just because she liked her regulars. But she never sat in the back of a room again. If this story reminded you of your own mother, everything she gave up quietly, everything she never asked credit for, comment. Eshe Deer's different seat, if you believe every mother like her deserves to be honored, not hidden.